Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are on the Update Winged Lions dev server and it's time to have a look at the ground vehicles which are coming to the game in Update Winged Lions. Now understand, since this is the first video that you should see when it comes to the dev server content, remember all of this is work in progress. There are bugs, there are issues, and since it's the first dev server, there's quite a lot of them. There's also a bunch of hidden vehicles that are around the place, but don't worry, we'll talk about those soon. So, let's get into the ground vehicles portion and see what each nation is getting. The first vehicle is the XM975. This is an American vehicle, which is going to be coming to the tech tree between the ADATs and the M247. It's a rank 7 bats rating 10.0, and what it basically is a chassis with the Roland system on top of it, the Roland SAMs. It can carry 10 of them, so you get 5 reloads on each, well, 4 reloads on each side. It has a crew of 3, so one here, and also one in the back, and does or should also get access to scouting, which would be quite nice, plus also the Roland 3. So it's not just stuck with the Roland 1, it'll also have the Roland 3 when it comes to being useful as an AA. But if you are unfamiliar with this system, it's one which is already in the game on the German machine, the Flak Panzer, and also the Roland, which is in the French tech tree. So look forward to that. Armor is non-existent, 32mm at most, and generally it's not going to be great as an AT, but as an AA it will serve a good purpose, and at 10.0 it's got a hell of a lineup around it. You know, the M1A1 Abrams, and also the IPM1 it can run with, or even just the M1 if you want to run the single Abrams with something like the Striker and the Bradley and have a little bit of fun. Just gives you extra options, which is always nice. The next vehicle is the DF-105. The DF-105 is a conglomeration of 2 separate ideas. You have the AMX 105 turret on the Marder chassis, of all things. So it's the Marder chassis, which you know from the Marders, which have already been added to the game. So basically the A1- and also the 1A3. So it's a pretty bog standard one. It can actually still carry troops in this variant. Also has the 3-man crew, 2 in the turret and 1 in the driver's position. Has the engine at the front, but instead of relying on missiles such as Milan's, this relies on a CN-105-57, which has access to an autoloader and a bunch of first stage ammo stowage rounds, 12 pieces to be exact for this gun. It isn't stabilized at all, but it will still pack a hell of a punch, and even though these turrets for the French are not stabilized and also are oscillating, they still are kind of stable. They are some of the most stable, unstabilized guns in the game. So this is a marriage of 2 really cool ideas, the Marder and the turret, and hopefully it's fun. It does have access to heat as a standard shell. At 7.3 this will pen everything it faces. The only thing it'll have issues with is stuff like T55AMs in full up tiers with its composite armor, but it should be alright against everything else. And also it's a scout, so you can scout with it, you can use artillery, it's got smokes on it, it's got smoke shells, it has everything you would need from this standard vehicle. So I really like this one. I think this one should be pretty fun. Now onto a donk machine. So this is the 2S3M. This is a howitzer piece when it comes to the Soviets. It was made in kind of rivalry to the M109, the howitzer from the Americans, and in game it has access to the 152mm 2A33. It has a nice little machine gun on the top of it, and also has this large chassis which looks incredibly similar to a few others we've seen in the game, such as the SU-100P chassis, and also actually I think it might be exactly the same. It might be slightly different, but it's around that kind of same idea. It does have this heavy turret on it though, so that slows it down. 520 horsepower, 27.5 tons is a bit rough, and does also have a crew of 4. This could technically have up to a crew of 6, but it has a crew of 4 in this, with the driver in the front and the 3 in the turret. The gun is not stabilized at all, and also it has pretty good elevation, an okay gun depression, and a reload rate of 15.3 seconds. The vehicle has a first stage ammo storage of 12 pieces, and the reload can only get worse from there, but overall it's not too bad. You know, I thought it was going to be a lot worse, I'm not going to lie. The shells are kind of interesting. So it has access to a HE, and with the overpressure mechanics, this HE might actually be really powerful. It also gets heat at 250, 270, 125, so not the best, but should still go through everything that you face. It gets an APHE BC of 166, 145, 87mm of pen respectively, another HE which is a huge donk shell. So the basic difference between these two, if you have a look, so the OF 540 pens 49 and has 5.9 kilos of explosive mass. The 3OF 25 has 6.57 kilos of explosive mass with 10 kilos TNT equivalent and pen 62. The actual muzzle velocity is also exactly the same, and so is the projectile mass. So the main thing is this is just a better round in every way, and I was using it earlier and I was overpressuring everything that I came into contact with, even Yag Tigers. So it's probably going to be a pretty dangerous round. Also has access to a HEVT. This is one of those which is similar to the Type 75 one, where it's triggered by the ground, and also that means that you have to range find with it and then fire it at a specific distance, and then when it reaches close enough to the ground it will set itself off. This is obviously not very useful. It doesn't work very well when it comes to the game. It's much better just to donk a fool with some HE. Also has a Dozer Blade, which is really cool. Another addition to the entrenching mechanics. I'll actually show you the Dozer Blade because it is a really nice little feature on it. And also, at the same time, you know, it has access to a few other things which make it pretty unique. So, you can see here. Pretty nice Dozer. And then, if I can just hit this target, maybe. I'm sorry, I forgot I had the HE... I have the HE VT loaded, which, as I said, is completely useless. I was testing it earlier, and let's just say it's not worth your time. The 3OF is definitely the way to go when it comes to this stuff. But it's another artillery piece which has a nice donk round on it, which should be pretty fun, and should be extremely fun just to hit things with. You can see there against the Panther, we can just annihilate it, and against a bunch of other stuff as well, it can be annihilating as well, such as Tiger 2Hs, Yag Tigers, and all of that good stuff. So definitely a machine to look out for when it comes to coming around the corner and just bonking you. I actually am looking forward to this machine. I didn't think I would, but it might be pretty fun. Then you have the Type 10, which of course is the new top tier vehicle for the Japanese. A lot of people have been looking forward to this one. It's coming after the Type 90B, no real surprise there, so it makes that one cheaper, which is quite nice. And this is just an upgraded tank. There's no other way of putting it. Its armor isn't fully modeled yet, by the way. It only has the composite armor, which is here and here, so not too useful, unfortunately. But I'm sure eventually it'll get its full model. Its commander thermals aren't working either. It only has access to gunner thermals, but it does have the 3-man crew, does have the 4-second reload, and does have the 1200 horsepower engine. And with the new transmission that this has, it can actually go forward 70 kilometers an hour and backwards 70 kilometers an hour, which is pretty impressive. So the first stage ammo storage is also 14 pieces, which is quite nice, and I'm hoping that this is a blowout panel. We'll have to see once it gets tested. It does have access to a 12.7 and a coaxial 7.62 as well, plus some smoke grenades which come out of the front in right here and here. And also it is slightly chunkier, it is slightly lighter, I believe, than the Type 90. Yeah, it's nearly 5 tons lighter, but with a slightly weaker engine as well. But it should have pretty much the same mobility as it, just better in reverse. One thing that it does have over the Type 90 is access to better shells. So the Type 90's top shell is the JM33, the Type 10's rank 1 shell is the JM33. The Type 10 has a special round which was developed for it, known as the Type 10. So that's not confusing at all. This pen's 615, 519, 355, and will do a great job going through anything at once, especially with a 4-second reload. The gunner thermals and should have commander thermals as well, and as we look at as well, has a laser warning system and a laser rangefinder. Laser warning systems are incredibly useful in the game, especially if you're paying attention, and it's nice to see it on this vehicle as well. Smoke grenades are around the place, and also everything else you'd want. The only thing it's missing is scouting, and that's because it's an MBT. So we're going to have to see what the armor values of this thing are like, but I don't really expect too much from it. The main thing is it's an extra tank for Japan with a 4-second reload with a crazy round. And also, it does have access to hydropneumatic suspension, which is quite good for the vehicle as well. Really nice to see this one. The next vehicle is for Italy, and this is the VCC 8060. This is the Dardo chassis, and as it's sat here between the Centauros right there. But basically what they've done is, you know how with the VCC 80 Hit Fist, they added the Hit Fist 30 turret? Well, on this one, they've added the Hit Fist 60. So it's another prototype with a dodgy turret, but has access to the 60mm auto HVG cannon. Now, you may be familiar with this, with the Orbal 74 HVG. Another thing they've also added, as you can see, is it actually tells you where this vehicle is from. So you can see Event Vehicle Operation Heat 2019. And then if we have a look at something else, let's say for the US, for example, let's have a look at the Macarva. It says Event Vehicle Strategist, or it says Event Vehicle Future Technology, or Operation Frost. How cool is that? I think that's a really nice little tidbit. But anyway, if you're used to the Orbal 74 HVG, the gun is exactly the same. But there is one massive difference with the VCC 80. It has a 2-second reload. So with the 60mm and with its setup that it has, it can throw out rounds so quickly. It has a 16-piece first stage ammo stowage, so it can fire 16 pieces of ammunition at 2 seconds a pop, so you can get rid of this in 32 seconds. Does have access to a 3-man crew once again, so driver, then commander and gunner. The commander can fire the gun if it wants to. 520 horsepower, 23-ton vehicle, so it'll be fine when it comes to mobility. Has the extra armor inside as well. This thing is going to be really annoying to fight, because once it sees you, you're going to get plinked to death. And it gets access to APF-STS, and it isn't the best APF-STS, only 249, 210, 144, but that's what you expect from a 60mm gun. It also has access to a HEVT shell, so that will be useful against aircraft, and also the Auto HE, which there's no reason to use. It does get access to thermals for the gunner, gets the LWSLR system as well, and generally this one is looking pretty fun. Like, it's looking like one of those vehicles which I'm going to use quite a lot. I normally like this type of vehicle. So you can see here. And then we get the HEVT. You can see it's just perfect at killing aircraft if you actually aim properly and not like me. There you go. So you can see by the way, that's the new aircraft sound. I have turned down my volume, by the way. It is that loud. So you can see it's not just a ground killer, it can also be a plane killer as well, which will be really nice. The only thing that's holding something like this back is the amount of damage that the APF-STS does once it pens. but that can be, you know, worked around, especially when you have a ridiculous reload like this machine does. But yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out my sound settings again, because jets are going to be really, really loud again. General armor on the turret, you're not looking at a lot. It's actually volumetric, weirdly enough, so actually it might be quite good. For some reason it's 438 millimeters on this turret, so it might actually be quite chunky to go through the front, but then again you can just pen it here. So these swings and roundabouts, when it comes to this vehicle, I feel like those values are way too high for this composite screen, but I suppose we'll see when it comes out. The French also get a new vehicle, the Leclerc S 21. This is the upgraded Leclerc. The major difference is the turret. It gets a little bit of extra armor on it. This one will also get access to commander thermals, which will be quite nice since it was taken away from the Leclercs before. The rounds it actually carries are exactly the same as the S2, so it gets the F1 round and the G1 round. Both of these are completely fine. Obviously the thermals being the last mod, it also gets the smoke and the laser rangefinder, 6-second reload because of the autoloader, and the 3-man crew because of the autoloader. So this one also gets, I believe, a little bit more protection on the composites side of things in the front. I'll just make sure to check that for you. So you can see here it gets 20, 360, 30, 335, where the S21 gets, it gets extra plates when it comes to its frontal armor as well, so that'll keep the gunner a little bit better alive, and at the same time people will just shoot your breech anyway, but you know, at least it means your gunner will definitely not die now, unless it's hit by a mega round, so yeah, that's pretty good. Actually no, even with a mega round it's going to be very hard to go through that. But yeah, that's the S21, and how it all works. It's just another Leclerc. It's basically the same as the standard one. Has slightly better turret rotation, but I'm pretty sure that's down to my crew skills. And also, we're in Ground Arcade again, so let's just switch that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's all crew skills. It's slightly heavier, slightly chunky, so it has the same engine, the 1475 horsepower one. So it'll be able to motor around, just won't be as quick as the other ones, but the difference should be negligible when it comes to it. It'll still be very, very fun. Then we have a Swedish vehicle. This monstrosity. This is the Bandkanon 1C, or the BCAN 1C as it's known. This is an artillery piece, and it's kind of similar in a way to the Soviet one that we have, the 2S3M, but it's on steroids. This thing has the 155mm Can M60 cannon, and this gun fires at a reload rate of 3.2 seconds. It has an ammo storage of 14. It's all in the first stage ammo stowage, and it literally fires them out at 3.2 second intervals. -5 degrees of gun depression, decent elevation, not great turret rotation speed. It's slow as all hell because it's 53 tons and 600 horsepower. But overall, what you're having from this vehicle is a pretty fun time when you think about it. It has some massive drawbacks. You know, its speed is not very good. Its actual traverse is pretty bad. But what you're getting out of this vehicle is a little bit of fun. And I think that is something that we can all enjoy. It only gets access to one shell, and it is the HE shell, which pens 58mm, which sounds bad, but overpressure exists, and it's a 155mm HE shell. So don't worry, it'll be able to kill anything that it hits. And just to show you the traverse, so this is as far as it can go, so just basically over the front road wheel. Then we'll do the other side as well. So you can see, just over the front road wheel, nothing too insane. But what comes insane on this vehicle is, first of all, the autoloading system looks really cool. So here you go. So it fires out the shell out the back, and then it loads another one in the top. which whoever worked on that animation, it doesn't look perfect, but it looks really, really nice. And just to give you an idea of the firepower, obviously T26, it's going to annihilate, obviously a T34, it's going to annihilate T44, T44 though, maybe not as well, but it still eventually should go through. If we hit like the turret on it, there you go, KV2, maybe it'll struggle on this one unless we hit it in certain areas. But the thing is, with a 3-point-second reload, you can kind of screw up a shot, and then you can just keep going, right? Like, you can eventually just keep smashing over and over and over again, and you'll find a weak spot. So, overpressure is a big thing in this thing, and you can see how fast it fires, you can see how much it can annihilate, and also, it has okay speed for the size of it. Doesn't have any secondaries or anything like that. It's probably going to get shot in the ammo as well, which won't be very good for it. But you can see in general, it's just like a fun little vehicle. Or, I shouldn't really say a little vehicle, it's a big vehicle. It's a massive vehicle. But even IS-4s should be scared of this thing. Only 14 rounds. But I still think fun for all the family. As always, thank you for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Professor X 1718, Orange Tail, Sakoshi Tiger, BRFC 15, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe A, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, and then Kyle Kin, Bareen, Lafouche, and also Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.